G'day YouTube, warbles on a lot here. As it were foretold within the prophecy, if your ancestors, in the interest of progress, profit-seeking and harvest everythingism, successfully fully put the topsoil at the bottom of the oceans and decorate the snowcaps of New Zealand with the eroded detritus that used to be here, then congratulations. Guess who has to learn how to grow their food on the rocks? Uncovered by overgrazing, ring barking, hot burning, torrential deluge, creating the mass wasting of the 1880s, which put a metre of topsoil that used to be here on the bottom of the ocean, or blocking up the riverbeds of the inland waterways. If you keep the sheep and cattle at bay, you may succeed in getting wild native food plants to repopulate the forest floor. But after 150 years of farming, it's pretty difficult to re-establish your wild native parsnips after the topsoil has gone. If you want to eat contemporary modern colonial style vegetables that have been exported from the Americas to Europe and then brought back here to Australia, it's just not going to happen on this stuff. You could go down to a floodplain beside a river perhaps and you could get something there that might be better to grow on, but guess who doesn't live on a floodplain? Therefore, thus and because, the trick appears to be import the soil, put it in tubs, put the tubs in a cage, and then net the cage both against hail and possums. So you're going to need at least second-hand steel mesh, wire, new plastic netting, an old waterbed to turn into a water tank, plastic hose, second-hand corrugated iron with which to feed rainwater runoff to the water tank made out of the water bed. And inside here we have 13 tubs with about 1,100 litres of dirt, plus the one survivor from the attempt 15 years ago, last time I had a vegetable garden, to see if I could grow a domesticated wild native parsnip in soil without rocks. Potatoes in, I think, 120 litre tub. There are other potatoes in there, but they didn't come up, perhaps because this one came up first. It was in similar condition to this, which had started to sprout inside the potato clamp on the vegetable cupboard. This is a potato that came up from an uncut specimen just placed in the soil. There were 3 potatoes in each one of those tubs. That one came up, it had a head start. That one came up without a head start. Nothing came up here till I re-sowed. These are carrots. We'll get back to them. They are escapees, seeds fallen out of my hand when I re-sowed this, which was originally parsnips. Not a single parsnip came up. Failure by the seed marketing company. beetroots. Yeah? Look ye carefully on what a beetroot is supposed to be. Right? These are the beetroots. That'll become interesting directly. Pretty much all of them came up. I put 8 tomato seeds in here. 8 tomato plants came up. I've already culled 2 of them. Give the rest a little bit of root room. I put 5 corn kernels into each one of these. 3 came up. I re-sowed. 2 came up. I have since re-sown. The corn seeds weren't the world's best. Onions. All doing what onions are supposed to do. This was the only bean out of 6 which came up, so I re-sowed with beans. We'll get back to them. Zucchinis. This little fella is about to open the flower and become the first edible produce out of the garden. One of these. These are blackjack zucchinis, and these are green skin zucchinis. And they're all doing all right too. So far. Now here we have Silver-Beet. It's not what you would call a beetroot leaf, because that is an actual beetroot leaf. These are beetroot, and these are supposed to be Silver-Beet. These here would be a typical Silver-Beet leaf, quite small, got to grow a bit. Here's a Silver-Beet that's got a bit of red in it. This one has got more red in it. There's an actual normal Silver-Beet. Here's a Silver-Beet that's got just enough red in it for it to be pink. Here we have 2 slightly darker throwbacks. This one is almost like vibrantly, fluorescently pink. And here in the back behind it we have a normal Silver-Beet. So, whether the mutant throwback red Silver-Beets are going to produce beetroots in a similar way that the actual beetroots do, I don't know, but you know, they came out of a packet of beetroot seed and they came out of a packet of Silver-Beet seed. So I think somebody at the seed breeding company has got a few things going on with throwbacks. On the other hand, in about a week, I expect to have a feed of zucchini and mutant Silver-Beet. And if I thin these onions out, I might even get some shallot-like spring onion-ish flavourings. I'm really impressed that these tracky medium size of the wild native parsnips managed to stay alive for 15 years with no care, no attention, no watering. Although, during last year's drought, they would have been getting watered by the sprinkler system. They would have been getting watered at night either from the irrigation sprinkler, 20 millimetres that went on that tripod over there, and which was capable of watering all the way back to here and squirting this wall of the shed, and these parsnips were also getting watered by the 25 millimetre industrial irrigation sprinkler, which succeeds in raining vertically on the far roof of the machinery shed and also raining on that corner of the vegetable garden. So the bottom line is As long as you've got water storage and a pump connected to a hose, then you can, even when it stops raining, you can contrive, providing you've got a fully operating industrial fossil fueled civilization on which to rely for motion lotion for your pump, for the imported buoy wall tanks and the water pump, the Australian manufactured polyester fire reel hose, the oil-based plastic tubs in which to contain the soil which has been commercially mixed and bagged and transported to the garden supply shop where and at it was purchased. You line all those things up, and even if you live on the rocks, 150 years after your ancestors put the topsoil at the bottom of the ocean, then you too can grow enough vegetables to entertain the fantasy of living in the forest and being self-sufficient for food. And when all is said and all is done, it's really just a little bit like mixing concrete when you want to make it rain. Yes, it'll inconvenience the concrete job if it rains, but if you break the drought by having a lot of concrete get ruined, that's pretty cheap, really. I don't think I can grow enough vegetables to live on. But if the supermarket stops stocking vegetables and I haven't done anything to try and prepare, then whose fault is it going to be if I got nothing to eat? If, on the other hand, I have a go at doing something, knowing that it's on too small a scale, but at least it's kind of headed in the right direction, sort of, more or less, a bit. And maybe, perhaps, possibly, it'll never get to the point where I actually depend on what I can grow. So this will never be put to the test. Negative sympathetic magic. If you want it to rain, run yourself out of firewood on the theory that you'll be able to pick up dry windfalls under the trees, no drama. When you got no firewood, that's when it rains. If you want it to stop raining, go out there and chainsaw wet firewood in the rain, put it away under cover while it's wet. As soon as you get your wet firewood covered up so it doesn't get any more wet, that's when it stops raining. Negative sympathetic magic. Here you see the negative sympathetic magic vegetable garden. Let's hope I don't have to try and live out of it, because there's not enough to keep a person going for very long. But there might be enough that when I have to harvest stuff in one go, because you can't leave it there forever, it all comes on more or less at the same time, I'll be able to give some of it away. So it's not completely wasted. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Still don't know what the story is with the mutant red silver beets, but it's interesting. I didn't know they threw back like that. I heard sugar beets were bred from beetroots and silver beets were a different thing entirely. But the seeds did look almost exactly identical to the seeds from them, from which they came. So, as gardens go, at least the gate's original. It can't hurt and it might help. So, why not, eh? Ciao.